Hello and welcome to another seasonal map cup cast. This time just random Automatch, 1v1 Automatch versus Luciano and J for Jett. We got them on Lost Glider. We got Luciano in the north of Lost Glider on OKW running Firestorm, which is why he didn't veto it. Fortifications and special operations. He's got the faster build time and defensive structures for Stern Pioneers by 10%, cheaper medical supplies by 7%, and the manual barrage 25% faster on the ISG. In the south end, we have J for Jett on USF running Infantry Company, Heavy Cav, and Mechanized Company with triple Rifleman Bulletins. The 3% faster reload, 3% increased accuracy, 10% faster veterancy gain for that quicker Vet 1 to get those snares on them. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with the map, we do have quite a bunch of cutoffs. We have one here, one here, one here, and here. The ones that you see mainly contested are these two with the buildings overlooking them. VP spread right across the middle of it, and munitions to the north and south of that middle VP. We'll see how they decide to move along and cross it, because this was recently updated with way better pathing and way less green cover in the middle. I like this Stern Pioneer usage to get the blockage on the still full health buildings, which makes this map just one of the worst ones in rotation right now. I believe it's in the bottom 4, but he does block it up, so he's going to keep away that church for the most part away from J for Jett. Meanwhile, he's ignoring his munitions entirely, which is really interesting for USF, considering that you like to see bars on them if you can afford it ASAP, but I guess that's not his focus right now, and he's just going to contest the fuel directly after he goes and gets that munitions point. Now, he's going to run into a secondary Stern Pioneer squad, leading even more into Firestorm. And we might get lucky and see the little flame potato that could. Stern Pioneers versus Riflemen at this distance. The cover is negated. This is within 10 meters. 10 meters is about this. So they should trade evenly. With that, it looks like Stern Pioneers just got a little too unlucky because they weren't behind that cover and didn't close that distance a little bit earlier, but they are doing a good amount of damage regardless. We have another secondary Stern Pioneer squad coming over and across. They're going to have to cross that negative cover road, but those Riflemen are out of there. And yeah, within the 10 meters, the cover is negated. It all just comes down to accuracy stats. Rifles grab that munition point up. Another set, move up into the middle. Doesn't look like he's very interested in this. And I like from Luciano not to panic and retreat these Stern Pioneers straight away. I'd like to see him shift queue these up and then send them home and have the Volksgrenadiers get to the front a little bit earlier. And commander lock him as Riflemen are building the defensive structures, aka sandbags. We have the Infantry Company ready to go. So the LMG is also potential for the rifles. Rear echelons hanging out behind this giant rock that can never be destroyed, which messes with pathing very badly over here in the west. But Volksgrenadiers don't look like they're very interested in that, as they are going to go directly for the fuel, and rear echelons not going to be able to push these guys out of here. They are going to attempt to. Now, the sandbags being built behind this will be a bit annoying. We did get a cutoff contention and just a soft decap from J for Jett on that, but this does take, for those of you wondering, this takes 3 territory points and a fuel. So just even a slight delay on this is quite huge. And he managed to get the north one, or Luciano didn't grab it at all, more accurately. So the whole map is cut off, so no income at all for him here for that little bit, which is pretty substantial. Rifles with the REs move up. Did get the neutralization on the fuel, so it was paid back a little bit, but he's not losing anywhere near the munitions income that Luciano did. First truck for Luciano coming out. We do have the Lieutenant as the choice for J for Jett. Sandbags being built on the other end of the VP in the middle by Luciano. Firestorm was the choice for him. No surprise there. Flamen Warfare 35 upgrades for the Stern Pioneers can prove to be very, very, very strong on this map, considering full health garrisons everywhere. So hopefully he'll be able to get a little bit of love out of those. Stern Pioneers moving forward. Incendiary Nade chucked down to deny that green cover, but they just keep walking right at him. Stern Pioneers might not be able to win this engagement. Focusing the REs, get him out of there, and then he should follow these rifles as they move and fire into their backs and just keep pushing onto them instead of standing here. You get them to retreat before too much more damage is done, because he's not going to be able to cap this. The squad's just too low health. So he could have gotten the retreat here, maybe another model or two, and then retreated and gotten a little bit more manpower drain from that on Luciano's end. Volk's Grenadiers forced to retreat. Lieutenant shows his face down in the south, so he knows what he's going to be looking at from his opponent's tech, which is just, for those of you that do not know, whoops, the M20, the 50 cal, and the M15A1 half track, which we'll most likely see the M15A1. M20 could be good with its mine on these main roads here, and it is a wipe machine on the retreat paths, but it's a little risky. Now, he is against OKW, so unless his opponent goes into the P2 for mechanized, which he has not, he's gone battle group. It's a 251 flak half track, so those both can trade fairly well, and the 251 flak half track does have to stop moving to engage the M20. I'd like to see the M20, but I doubt it is. The mobile suppression platform from the M15A1 is just so strong. Now, these riflemen, they don't have the, I think it's the M2? Yeah, the MK2 frag nade upgrade done on this, so clearing this garrison is going to be a bit difficult. We do have the first Flammenwerfer squad. It's going to Flammen its Werfer sooner rather than later, and I like the break of the structure here from the RE. It's taking a little bit of damage from the received accuracy on this, as there is a window that peeks out here that they can see through magically because it's right on the window, so it does indeed just shoot through that model. Just one of the many issues with the map that could have been fixed from way back one.
We're losing a capture point.
50 cal production now for Jett. Or excuse me, not J for Jett. Getting mixed up. For Luciano, that's the MG34. 50 cal already ready to go and overlooking the fuel. So Luciano's only choice is to head into the west a little bit further out. And he still has not grabbed this territory point. So every time he gets decapped here, it's catastrophic. He needs to just take the time and go over. Lieutenant raining all kinds of love down on the Stern Pioneers. He's wishing he had his Flammenwerfer squad over here. But sadly, it's over at a VP. Stern Pioneers get a lot of damage onto those rifles, but not enough to drop a model. Lieutenant's still doing a lot of work. He's going to finally push up and throw that incendiary. Lieutenant will hop out and just fire from the back. Nope, it looks like he's just content and retreating. But a lot of manpower being eat up for Luciano, just struggling to get out of his base and not capping this territory points, losing him the game. As J for Jett just keeps pushing up over and over again onto this cutoff. MG34 is not going to be able to fire onto this. 50 cal is going to continue to fire regardless of whether it's pinned, suppressed, what have you. Team weapons will still fire, so the MG34 has to head home, as it's not even going to get that suppression or the pin onto those rifles, and he's going to hang out inside the building again. And Flammenwerfer squad still not here, and if it is, semi-closed. It's unsupported, so it's not going to win the engagement even if it wanted to. ISG now the choice. Just cap this territory point, Luciano. It's almost 10 minutes into the game. For the love of God. This is like the third or fourth time now that he's been completely cut off from the map for extended periods of time. Flammenwerfer squad does get quite a good chunk of damage on those rifles, but realizing that he's against two, he doesn't want to bleed any more manpower than he has to, as it is 30 manpower per model on the Stern Pioneers, and the reinforcement time is quite long. It's fairly lengthy. ISG is out. We'll see if it does any work. It should be able to with the 50 cal and the usage of the garrisons from J for Jett. LMG's now coming out. It's just going to be bad time. He's got LMGs even on the REs instead of going for the bazookas, which you typically see. But this will help them jettison their way to Vet 3, where they get the extra model. ISG trying to find these shots, just landing onto the buildings, it sounds like. What is he shooting at? Oh, retreating 50 cal. Okay. 50 cal heads on out. Stern Pioneers suppressed. That's just the residual suppression from the 50 cal that's headed back home. And the rifles headed back home as the Stern Pioneers with the Flammenwerfer 35 are ready to go. And we got those LMGs on everything but the last squad that's retreating home. USF Mortar coming in. Now the range on this is astronomically shorter than the ISG. It's manual barrage. So with the 25% increased or decreased cooldown, it will be able to use that relatively quickly. Now, the USF mortar does pick up the fastest out of all the mortars, so it will be able to hop around a little bit, but he's trying to get it. He's most likely going to use that mortar for smoke to just get around the MG34 when it becomes a nuisance for him. LMG rifles with Vet 1 trying to win this engagement against CERN Pioneers. I like that he is focusing those down and trying to bleed as much manpower as he can, especially since the burst from the Flamen Warfare 35 or any flamethrower in general is just going to deal a lot of damage. So he gets that squad to head home, but he's going to lose his fuel for a little bit on this. Now the green cover here with the another Vet 1 rifleman squad at this range is just going to chew up those Volks Grenadiers. Now he's going to try and stick this out to get this soft decap on it, while in the east, he's not able to stand on the point, but he does win the engagement with 2 sets of Volks versus the Lieutenant. So he does get the neutralization. He's forced to head home. And he will take the east now. Meanwhile, the USF mortar fired a stray shot into the church here. But no models, minimal damage. And it looks like Luciano's going to try and equalize. Now, the shock factor of the Flamen Warfare, or the Flampanzer, excuse me, the little flame potato that could, is definitely gone, as he is going to get to tier 4 so late from the superior movement from J for Jett across this map. ISG lands right on the money for those REs capping this middle VP. USF mortar fires back. And it's going to connect into the building with the MG34 as it is overlooking the cutoff and trying to secure that, but it's going to be forced to pick up and head out of there as this USF mortar is going to continue to smash in onto it. ISG trying to retaliate and connect on that USF mortar, still not doing it, and the riflemen trying to desperately to crawl their way behind this sight-blocking plaster wall. Don't get there quite in time. MG34 takes a ton of damage, is going to be forced to head on home. STG's coming out for one whole squad of Luciano. It just shows you how far behind in map control he really was. In the M4A3 queued up, ready to go. Major hasn't even shown yet, and hopefully it doesn't, as it will be entirely a shock unit for Luciano. And without any light vehicle play from J for Jett, he's got to get some Rakettans onto the field. But this really stems from the fact that he never took his secondary cutoff the entire time. So every single time his cutoff, his main one was contested. It was just catastrophic. Walking right into the 50 cal with these Volks. He's going to sit here and tank this for a little bit with the ISG and the Flamen Warfare 35. He's going to get that 50 cal to run away, but not before the damage is done onto these Volks. M4A3 getting nearer and nearer to the front line. And he might be able to pick up a wipe on this, and he does. He picks up the 50 cal. Nice little win for Luciano here. Hops into the building, throws some Flamen Warfare onto these rifles. Sadly, the Volks can't crew this up without the Volk squad being lost, but here it comes. Here comes the Sherman. And it's going to be a bad time. Sherman for sure. He has no answer for this at all. And it makes its way through the field. Bad things cometh for Luciano, and he does not know. One Rakettan queued up, but it is not enough to stop this. He switched to high explosive. He has not, so he's on the armor piercing right now. So not the RNG HE deletion machine shells that could be being utilized. But that M4A3, everything has to retreat. Nothing can pen the armor except for the Rakettan that is just now being produced. And once again, cutoff taken, so no fuel income for Luciano. Going to be double fuel again for J for Jett, and this is honestly his game to lose at this point. Still tooling around with the armor piercing, trying to get this MG34. Important to note that he did grab that 50 cal, and the MG34 heads home. Still hasn't switched. Oh, excuse me, he has. He's on the HE shell now. But there's no way, in my opinion, Luciano will be able to bounce back to this unless J for Jett just parks in front of 2 Rakettans for a good while and manages to lose it that way. ISG firing a shot onto the USF mortar that is behind the carcass of the Panzer IV in the middle VP. Not finding any connections, while the M4A3 forces everything to retreat. Fires a shot into that hay. That hay pile in particular deserves a full force of this USF cavalry. And everything is in the base. Rakettan trying to set up. find one shot. He'll back off and away. Maybe finds a second if the Rakettenwerfer can actually thread the needle. And it does. It goes right through the cousin of that hay pile there. And M4A3 is about 50% HP, but the map control just speaks volumes. M4A3s are going to keep on coming out, if not a Scott. And it's going to get harder and harder for Luciano to bounce back on this. And since he picked in Firestorm, he doesn't have the Command Panther call-in, the Panic call-in to grab up the Special Operations Command Panther. And there's the other M4A3 on the production line while the vehicle crew hops out and repairs up this first one. Stern Pioneers work their way over onto the cutoff. Flammenwerfer, Stern Pioneers, and the MG34. I think that's the MG34. That might be the 50 cal. Nope, it is not. It is the MG34. But the Flammenwerfer squad does get those rifles out. MG34 is headed back home. The Schumann being planted right in front of them. He's going to chase him down a little bit. Drops a model, goes back to planting it, and cancels it. And rightfully so. He needs to place this on the road. If he can sneak it up into here, this is a nice little spot, high traffic area for the M4A3. He could snare one of the two up. Potentially get the kill with the one Raketten he has. But with the second M4A3, he's just going to park himself on the base, most likely, and just win this game. As his opponent, J for Jett, for Luciano, knows that he doesn't have to worry about any call-ins, as the Flammenwerfer on this Stern Pioneer is doctrinal, so he knows what he's looking at. And they might get wiped here. If they clump up a little bit more, that HE shot could wipe them. Doesn't manage to find another model on the retreat. M4A3 rolls over into the west. I'm going to get all of this to retreat. STG Volks, 50 cal, everything, or the MG more appropriately. Second Raketten is being made, but there's a second M4A3. And, yeah, nah, not looking good. He's going to give the present back of the 50 cal. And there it goes. Short use, and that's the GG. And this really just stems from the simple fact that he refused to cap this territory point for almost 10 minutes. So every time J for Jett pushed up onto this cutoff, whole map was taken. So definitely an error in capping from Luciano, causing him, in my opinion, to lose this game just from the resource, or more accurately, lack thereof of resources compared to his opponent. So J for Jett does squeeze out the win on this one in a rather dominating fashion. I guess we'll go head on into the next one.